got a bidet! Hey everybody, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're talking about the latest episode of Andor, which is episode 10. This picks up right after the previous episode left off, where Andor is finally convinced his group leader to, well, kind of convinces him. He at least has a change of heart, so to speak. At the end of the previous one, because he actually tells him how many guards are on every floor. So what brings us to this episode, spoilers start now, is that Andor is still really trying to convince his group leader. Like, he wasn't 100% in. He was just starting to have some impulse reactions to when the guy had the stroke and they figured out that nobody was leaving the prison, even though they're told that they're able to. And so it takes a little bit more to get him going. They end up walking back into their like living quarters. Everybody's wondering what happened, and because they are aware that the one guy from the floor went down and had a stroke. And basically, Andor is still trying to persuade his group leader, and the group leader's kind of like, keep hush, we don't need to say anything yet. And Andor's like, enough is enough. This is our opportunity, and I'm not going to let you ruin it, kind of a thing. And so he, tells everybody on or in his area that they're not going to get out, and that's that. And so he's basically trying to rile up now not only his group leader but everybody on his floor to be able to do like a prison break. And so it took very little to convince them, just because they know something happened on a different floor. Andor told them what happened with how someone else figured out that nobody was getting out, so they electrocuted an entire floor. This is the inspiration for everybody to, believe in Andor. And so when they get to their main workstation area, there's this new guy that's coming in. He's going through the same process as Andor did when he got to the prison. But the Andor and his group is using that kind of as a distraction while they, start their little process of the prison break. And Andor kind of trickles away, and he opens up this panel, and he's sawing at the thing, smacking it, and it's basically a pipe that has water in it. It's a water pipe. And he does what he can. He go, and eventually the pipe does start to leak. He smacks it a couple more times, and it is basically full-blown flooding the floors. He's able to make his way back into the main room when the new person into their group is being introduced. He had kind of some wet hair, so I was kind of wondering if the guard was going to pick up on that. Like, bro, you didn't have a shower lately. But they're able to do that, and a couple of the guys on the floor decide to do a distraction. This is part of their plan. They do like a fake fight, and the guards are like, hey, what are you doing? And basically, this is enough distraction for Andor and another member of the group to start heading towards the guards. Unfortunately, the first member, not Andor, that heads up there gets shot and killed. And the guards are starting to figure out that something's going on. And this leads all the group members to start throwing the parts that they use to construct the different, the thing that they're building and their workstation. They're throwing all those parts at the guards to try to distract them while Andor heads up to take one out. Eventually, Andor does, I think he trips one of the dudes because he falls down, and then Andor uses that dude's blaster to kill the other guard, and then eventually handles the guard he's working with and kills him. There are a good handful of people that die in this sequence. I would say probably at least 5 or 6 people on the shift does that. They do try to electrocute the floors, but with the water, uh, everybody except for one person is able to get up on top of the table so it doesn't affect them. Unfortunately, one person does die from this, but the whole point of bursting the water pipe was that when the electricity touched the water, it would basically fry the system so that they can't use it against them anymore. So
It created
now,
a short circuit.
right. So now all the people from Andor's floor that are still alive are taking that same little route that Andor did to get up to like the guard area, and they're heading out. They're leaving their floor. They do find a rack of guns so that they can all start taking blasters as they head through the different halls, and they're trying to alert different groups. Like they're taking out the guards of a separate floor we see, and then Andor, tells them, "Hey, this is what's going on. Let's go, go, go!" And um, as they're doing this, they're like lowering the platforms so that they can make their way up to get out, just kind of like Andor and all his group did as well. While this is happening, Andor and the group leader are heading towards one way, and the rest of the people are kind of going around and trying to help the other floors out. And during this sequence, they head towards basically like the main area of the prison, and they're trying to get things to be shut off and turned down. Um, Eventually, they're able to convince the guards to do all this stuff. I think one of the ways they did it, they're like, "Do it," and he said no, and he's like, "You don't think I'm serious?" And he shoots the other guard, and then the guy's like, "Okay, I'll do it." And so they power down all the different systems in the prison, and the group leader goes up to the microphone. He's giving a speech to all the people in the prison, and it's a pretty good speech, I would say. The main thing that him and all the people keep chanting is one way out. And they basically are taking their one chance with this one way out of the prison. And so he tries to rally the people around with that speech. And then uh, they're heading out. And when they get back to where it's the same shot as when Andor arrived at the place, except there's no ship outside. Um, they get to the edge, and basically, there's the edge, and then there's quite the drop into water. That's the outside. And Andor is trying to tell his leader, like, "Hey, come on, this is the time." And come to find out, group leader can't swim. So everybody else is jumping except for him. So we'll have to see whether or not, because at the end of the episode, Andor and one other dude are seen running towards, they're on the mainland and they're trying to find, a village, a city, whatever they can to help them out. I'd be curious to see if they end up going back to pick him up. But essentially, that's what happens with the prison break. We do have two other main things I think that are happening in this episode. One with Mon Mothma. Ooh, this one was interesting. Um, there's a dude that is talking with them, and basically, Mon Mothma wants a favor from him, and she's willing to pay him for his efforts. But this guy is saying like, "I don't want any money." Uh, And my mom is like, "Well, I have to pay you because I don't want to owe you a favor." And so he says, "Well, I have a son," and he's kind of insinuating that maybe his son and Mothma's daughter could get married. He's not saying it directly, but that's kind of what he wants. And he wants Mothma to think about it. And she's kind of like, "I'm not thinking about it." And he's like, "Yeah, you are." And so we kind of, when he leaves, we kind of have this shot of her. It looks like she's disgusted. It looks like she's very, very shocked that she just heard that from him. But I would say she's probably thinking about it to some degree. Very little. I don't think she wants to do it, but she's thinking about it. So that was like a very small section of her. The other section, which is actually pretty big as well, is one of the dudes that we see uh, in the when the Empire is having their like round table meetings and they're discussing things. We actually see one of these guys, and he is trying to get in contact with Luthen. And so what this is telling us is that he is a spy. He is not part of the Empire. But he goes to meet up with Luthen. He's in this elevator thing. He's talking to Luthen, and then when the elevator door opens, Luthen's right there in front of him, and they get to talk. It's definitely the longest I've ever seen an elevator door sit there without closing, because he just stays inside. But what's important is that this guy is relaying information to Luthen, so we kind of know how Luthen is getting an inside edge. But also, the guy wants out. He doesn't want to be a spy anymore. He says, I have a family. I've done, probably well more than what I needed to for you. You get all this information. I want out. And Luthen basically gives him, again, a pretty good speech for this episode of like, no, you're not going anywhere. You're going to be a part of this and you're going to help us out. It's going to be better for your family and all that good stuff. So we really get to see what we saw it kind of in a previous episode when Luthen was talking to, I forget her name. She was the leader of the heist group. It's Mothma's cousin. But when he was talking to her first about Andor, we kind of saw how he was happy-go-lucky at first, but then when she wasn't budging, he kind of flipped the script, and you could really see that he was getting angry and he was getting very stern. Same thing happens here. He started off kind of light, and then he really put it in for him. And that's about all from the episode. It went really quick, in my opinion. It was still the normal length of the episode, but it was very, very engaging. So, Sarah, what do you think of the episode?
Before I get into my thoughts, there was one other, I'm going to say somewhat major scene that they had in there, which was back home, Cassian's like original home. They
Oh, yeah.
showed they showed some of the locals talking about his mom and that she wasn't taking her medicine or something along those lines. And gosh, I am terrible at names. The girl that's supposed to be waiting for Cassian to come back because she wants to save him from the Empire or something. I'm not sure what exactly her motive is yet. But she was from the heist, right? So they show her kind of watching or listening in that, Cassian's mom is not doing very well. And we knew that from a previous episode, but she's doing worse because now she's not even taking her medicine, apparently.
They also made it a point to show that the Empire was listening. There was an officer or something that overheard them, and they like stayed on him for a while to make sure that we know that he knows. That's about it for the episode. Thanks for filling those in. I kind of forgot about that. What are your thoughts on the episode?
Yes, so excuse me. Okay, so overall, I thought it was a pretty good episode. It's definitely better and more action-packed than what we've seen in the past. The last episode or two really have been, I think, more climatic than what we've seen way earlier in the season. So, in my opinion, the show is getting better. However, I feel like they're still stuck in some of their ways with some things, like the scene that we just discussed about Cassian's mom. It was such a minor scene. I feel like with just tossing that in there with no other context or no follow through, or, it kind of didn't really amount to anything. I feel like next episode there might be something more to that. But then this scene should have been in the next episode, not this one, because, it's such an insignificant scene compared to the rest of the episode, the actual prison break. that it's not really that memorable. That's why, when you were running through the episode, it kind of slipped your mind. And that's kind of my point is, these scenes that don't lead to anywhere are getting a little stale for me. It just takes away from the rest of the excitement of like the jailbreak and whatnot.
Don't
Uh,
lead anywhere as far as the current episode.
what?
I said don't lead anywhere as far as the current episode. Like
Right.
it might have something later on, but I think what you're saying is you wouldn't want the breadcrumbs, so to speak, in other episodes.
Unless they're more substantial, because I feel like that was something that was one, not super memorable, and two, during the episode, it took away from the excitement of the prison break. So for it to not go anywhere this week, and maybe it goes somewhere next week, well, then maybe this scene should have been in the next episode to go with the rest of whatever it's building to. And this is something they've done time and time again with all kinds of different aspects peppered in throughout the show. And I know you can't have just one character arc in one episode and then the next episode is another character arc, but I feel like that was one small scene that really probably should have been cut from this episode. Aside from that, because that wasn't like a huge thing, it was just something that kind of nitpicky that bothers me. I did overall like the bulk of the episode. I think the prison break was interesting. I don't know that and this is, I don't have a super electrical background, but with my limited knowledge, I don't really buy into the floor short circuiting. I feel like the water would have just made it even more electric and more dangerous. Since water is conductive. Um,
If I
unless
remember correctly, I think so when that happened, the power went out briefly and then it came back on. So I do think it did short it. Like if you throw
the
a toaster in a bathtub, it's not going to sit there for an infinity time. It's eventually going to short circuit.
I suppose, but the water wasn't really on the electrical component. It wasn't on like the circuit board, which is what would be short circuited. It was just on the ground. That's why, when there's lightning out, you need to be in a car because if you're outside and you're in a puddle, you're gonna get zapped. I feel like the leader of the shift who was standing on the floor and didn't get zapped because of the short circuit, I feel like he should have been zapped there. It didn't really make sense to me from an electricity standpoint. But aside from that, moving forward with their jailbreak, how did you feel about him not jumping, even though he couldn't swim?
I figured that he was going to try to, well, there could be a couple of things with that. One, the thing that's probably least probable is he could be, you know, uh, I don't know what you call that, two-faced. Uh, I think that's least likely about it, but I don't know. I think he was probably going to go back and try to find a ship or something. Um, I mean, I didn't have a problem with him staying back if that's what you're referring to.
I feel like he should have jumped. If you are in the mindset of screw it, I gotta do anything because if I stay here, I'm going to die. And I'm going to throw all these tools at guys that are blasting at me with a blaster, and then you get to that and you don't jump just because you can't swim.
That's a long
I,
way to swim. Even you
it
said something about
was,
it during
but
the
you saw
episode.
how many people were there. You don't think a couple guys could have grabbed his arms and helped him get to shore?
I have
People
no
could have
idea.
taken turns, like, all right, I'll swim with you for 10 feet. This guy swims with you for 10 feet. I feel like if it was a matter of life and death, and they did this knowing if I don't do it, I'm going to die anyway. I gotta die trying. Feel like he would have jumped. I don't necessarily agree with that story arc for him.
Maybe
Um,
they should have looked through the supply cabinets and found an Imperial life jacket.
a floaty.
Grab your floaties.
The other part that I'm curious about is you're right, it's a long ways to swim, but it was a really high jump too. It wasn't just like jumping off the side of a pool. You know, they were, what did they say, like 8 stories up or something? The impact of hitting the water from that high up, I'm curious to see if anybody got hurt, because at a minimum, you should be bruised pretty bad from that. If not, something, a torn muscle or a broken toe or something. It's just, you can't jump from that high into water and not get hurt.
You do not belly flop.
Those are my issues with the episode. I did like that it was action packed. I did like that it actually held my attention, even though I had some criticisms. Um, I didn't recognize the spy from like when Luthen was talking to the spy. I didn't recognize him as being somebody from um the like somebody we'd seen before. I don't know if you recognized him or not. I mean, I could piece together that okay, he must have some sort of inside information, but I think it would have been nice if it was somebody that I actually recognized.
Well, I don't think they're gonna make it be like Nedra or something. So, um, I recognized him. He doesn't talk very much, but I recognized him.
Do you mean Dedra?
Nedra. Yeah.
What are some of your other thoughts?
I think I share the same opinion for a couple of things, but I don't think it bothered me nearly as much as it did for you. Like when I saw them jumping that high from uh the prison into the water, I kind of wondered like, I don't know about that. Like I don't think I would jump. Like goodness. I think I'd probably find a lower floor and try to find my way out, break a window or something. But I like the prison break. I thought it was uh like I said, this it was a normal length episode and this one flew by for me. They did a really good job with, in my opinion, making it believable. I thought, because they were showing that the floors were getting pretty darn flooded by the time they did everything. And we did see one person die um, when they tried to or zap the floors. But yeah, I think it was a pretty good episode. Probably one of my favorites of the bunch. This show tends to get better. Let's see this way, get better as time goes on. Um, I'm still not at the big hype as a lot of people are, but I will say that I've gotten to the point where I look forward to seeing the next episode. I would say the first 5 episodes or so, I wasn't feeling it, but right now, right when the show is about to end, because we got like 2 more episodes, that's when I was feeling up for it. I'm excited to see what happens with these last 2 episodes. I'm wondering, you know, how Andor plans to leave this planet. Is the what's the Empire gonna do with the little story arc with the pilot that supposedly died and there's a ship or something? We haven't seen that happen yet. They've talked about it, but they haven't done it. Um, I'm
What do you mean
curious,
they haven't done it?
like they haven't made it. They haven't done they haven't faked it yet. They
Just
did?
the hmm
Oh, I thought they just saw it. I didn't know they told anybody about it.
the episode from this week, they said like, all right, it's been staged. The guy has been found dead. Everything went according to plan. Dedra wanted to just leave it alone, and somebody else told the Imperial leader, like, hey, the least suspecting thing that we should do is investigate what happened to this guy. That's going to put the least amount of suspicion that we're the ones that did it. So the guy's like, yeah, you're right. Let's do an investigation on why this guy died. Like, they know they killed him, but um trying to figure out what happened to this ship. Oh my gosh, I don't know.
Gotcha. I remember there being a small scene. I didn't remember that being covered. But I guess the biggest thing I'm wondering about is the Empire gonna like double down on this planet and figure out what happened with the prison? Like, are they gonna bring a garrison? Are they gonna bring a Star Destroyer worth of people? Is the Emperor gonna make an appearance? You know, all these different things that could be interesting to see what happens. I remember there being concept art with royal guards involved, and so I'm hoping to see some of that as well. Also, with 2 episodes to go, what more are we going to get out of Mothma and Luthen? Like, I feel like we've learned a lot about Mothma, but I don't think she's really accomplished a whole lot in the show so far. So I'm wondering if she might start to get some people to at least listen to her in the Senate, or just anything with her, just because I feel like we haven't gotten there yet. But that's about it. Looking
I'm
forward to
curious
next
to
week.
see I'm curious to see what happens with the shift lead guy that couldn't swim. We talked about in a previous episode how they focused on those anti-electricity boots that were hanging on the wall, and they kind of focused on it this episode a little bit too, but nobody ever put them on because the system was turned off. So I'm wondering if somehow he's going to do something with those, or if that will lead to anything with those boots, for him to somehow figure out another way out.
I don't know. Maybe he'll do like a fake call or something and have the Empire with a ship and then take the ship. But part of me wonders if we won't even see anything else from him, just because we're following Andor, and if he was just a side character, so be it. I feel like with it being Andy Serkis, it's a little more important than meets the eye, just because he's played big characters in the past. He played Snoke. We all know what Ryan Johnson did to him, but he was a significant character. And I feel like Andy Serkis is the type of person to play very significant people. If you've looked at his uh, resume on IMDb, he plays a lot of main characters. But I think that's about it for this episode. We look forward to seeing the next episode and the season finale, which are coming very, very soon. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and turn on those notifications so you're notified when our videos drop of the series. Please drop us a like if you like the video, and drop us some comments letting us know what your thoughts were on the episode. And one last thing is that we've been doing these different discussion type videos, and we put out a survey to kind of see what you guys wanted, and it kind of sounds like you guys want more podcast style stuff. So we got some stuff in the works for that, so stay tuned. And then, as always, everybody, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.